budget is due to the county by May 31st. We submitted the modified tax budget for annual approval on February 28th. And so we will construct our budget with that modified tax budget approach. And the operating budget is set at $70,115,000, which is 5% greater than the current 2022 appropriations. And this is primarily for increases in salary cost. We know that right now inflation is pretty high, so some other costs will be going up. And we do have some new branches that will have rental that we did not have in the past. So all of those things are accounted for in that anticipated increase. And then on the top of the next page, there is comparable by category for each of the 2022 and 2023. And I feel like I'm missing something here. But either way, we are requesting a total of $71,300,000 from the PLF, and with a bulk of that being in the transfer out to cover the capital projects. So in line with the FMP, we have what the capital projects still that we need to do listed down there for a total of $67,166,940. And then the budget does include the contingency of $1.75 million for operating, and then a $2 million capital contingency. And we expect the general fund in 2022 to end with approximately $22.5 million of available funding. And so in order to achieve our funding, we're expecting the property tax receipts at $38,266,218, which is what we have from this year. And this is where I have it, that then we're requesting the $71,300 from the PLF. We realize the PLF is not going to come in at that, but we like to show what our full needs are.
Molly, can you just very briefly talk a little bit about that carry forward number? Because sometimes we get questions about why we have carry forward.
Right. So the carry forward is kind of mapped into that the transfer to the capital project. That carry forward is going to decrease over the next several years because we did front load the funding of the FMP. And as long as we have demonstrated need to use the carry forward, there's no issue. And we can demonstrate why we need that in that. And, really 22.5, it is high, but we definitely need it for these capital projects going forward. And some of it is just a timing issue of being able to, get the projects done. So that's how did I answer your question?
Yeah, does that make sense to everyone? Occasionally people will ask us about that carry forward, yeah. And I just want you to kind of feel that you understand what we have there and why we have that. Yeah. What can feel like a larger number than you might expect.
Yes, and the way it's projected over the next 3 to 4 years, that will definitely start coming way down. And then the next thing we have here, Mr. Henning, do you want me to keep going or do you want to jump in?
Where are you? Revisions to the estimated resource and appropriations?
Yeah.
All right, gift funding. Last year, the foundation received contributions on a Scott Lodeke to purchase library materials. The current appropriation is not sufficient to account for the planned spending in 2022. We're requesting authorization to increase the gift fund library materials appropriation to account for this additional spending. The expenses, library materials increased by $10,000.
Hey, Bob, just very briefly, I do want to point out Karen Clemens has joined, and I think Mr. Olson is joining as well. So welcome, Ms. Clemens and Mr. Olson. We are just on the second page. Bob has just, third page, excuse me. Bob has just completed the info about the gift fund, and if you're looking at the screen, I think you can see where we're at. So hi everyone, welcome, and back to you, Mr. Hendon.
All right, 2027 branch replacements and renovations construction manager at risk. Received statement of qualifications from 4 firms: Conger Construction, IPA Design Build LLC, Megan Construction Company Incorporated, and Turner Construction Company. If reviewed by the committee and considering the benefit of having sufficient time for the interview portion of the process, Conger Construction Group, Megan Construction Group Incorporated, and Turner Construction Group were invited to submit a request for proposal and to participate in interviews on April 1st, 2022. In addition to the interviews, the construction manager at risk committee reviewed the submitted proposals for technical qualifications and fixed fee pre-construction pricing. Based on the activities summarized above, authorized the Jane Room Corrector to enter into contract with XXX firm. I didn't see their qualifications.
We won't know till Friday.
Right.
Qualified for the construction manager at risk for the 22-27 branch replacements and renovation projects. Ranking in 3 terms as follows, and that will be determined. All right. Price Hill Parklet. On March 4th, 2022, rebids for the Price Hill Parklet, the front lawn of the Price Hill branch, received. The estimate for the project was $341,200. The library received 2 bids ranging from $357,000 to $431,000. The then qualified bidder, who was also the lowest responsible bidder, was Adelt LLC. We request approval from the Price Hill Parklet branch budget, including the approximately 10% contingency as follows. Contractor A Delta Incorporated, $357,000. Owner cost, design fees, permits, supplies, $80,000, with a contingency of $40,000 for a total of $477,000. We're also requesting authorization for Eva Jane Remain Coombe Director to approve change orders that do not increase the overall budget and to exceed the certificate of substantial completion. All change orders for the contractor will be reported to the board for confirmation. Now, moving on to the Price Hill branch accessibility, the final contract payments have been paid to Kyler and Company. The Hamilton County Prosecuting Attorney's Office continues to monitor a claim that Kyler has made against the library. Next, Walnut Hills branch accessibility. The exterior masonry work is almost complete. The interior finish work continues. In ongoing dialogue with the model group and the opportunities to maximize the agencies of our 2 properties, we're investigating a land swap, which will provide the model group with a piece of property between our 2 lots and provide the library dedicated parking at or near grade close to the south entrance. We're requesting authorization to continue investigating the potential land swap. The following change orders have been approved and submitted for confirmation for Megan. Net of unneeded allowances, an increase in project duration, $23,544.86.
Mr. Hagan,
Yeah.
just to take a quick pause. This is maybe newer or updated information. We've talked about this, but it's been a little bit since we had discussed with the committee the opportunities with model group. So just wanted to take a pause, see if anybody had any questions. And then Karen and Greg, we do have Waycross Media on here. So because it's a virtual meeting, we are streaming, and they will show this for public access. So I just want to remind everyone that, while we don't have anyone in the room and you're all separate, we are doing public access to the meeting via Waycross. So, but back to Walnut Hills, wanted to see if there were any questions or any specifics Molly or I could answer.
Yes, Nadine Allen here. Would you expound a little bit on where this property is and the land swap, and kind of delve into that a little bit more?
Yeah, Molly's, we don't have the map right in front of us, but so Nadine, you know where the Walnut Hills branch is, and there's the old Kroger was sort of parallel to it.
Yes.
And then Model has purchased all of that surrounding those buildings. So they've torn down Kroger and they purchased the large, what is the name of that? It's not Percival, it's there's a large housing area right.
Alexandria?
No, well, yeah, there are several large housing areas right there, and they're redeveloping the lot. And the area that we're talking about is behind the Walnut Hills Bridge. So if you drive past Walnut Hills and you look up at the entrance, we all know that is one entrance into the new building. There's actually another entrance almost exactly on the opposite side of the branch. They sort of have a tunnel, they line up. And what we're talking about doing is doing some land swap in some area there along the new portion of the Walnut Hills branch and swapping that for back parking designated spaces. So we do have parking across the street from our branch, which we've always had. And we know people will park there, and then we have the ability for them to walk across and get in the entrance that is the traditional entrance we know. But with this new entrance in the back and the development and models planning, we are hoping to do a land swap along one side where we don't necessarily have as much use for the land as we would for 8 spots behind the branch, which is now into the new entrance. Does that help at all? We can send a map to you. We're going to try and pull it up,
I'll
but
send it to you. Can you pull it
I
up?
can pull it up. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great that we're trying to provide the best possible access and parking availabilities for the community.
Yeah, and this would be true handicap accessible parking because we do have parking, but all of our parking right now is across the street. So this would provide at grade parking to easily get in the branch. And I think it would really benefit the community.
So I'm going to see if I have this, and to give appreciation to the model group. They have been very proactive and including us in their discussions. And Molly and I met out there, and we're talking about this at grade. So as with every Carnegie we ever seem to have, there are some issues with the grading around it. And so here, I think I can share this.
Because the branch actually now, the new branch, it's a ramp to get up into it. So yeah, that shows our building, the outline building on where Paula is, that's the new addition. So that blue and yellow area combined would be the area that we would swap for the red area in the back.
Gotcha. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you can see, Paula, if you want to go over to where the entrance would be, right up there at the top.
Yeah, here.
Well,
Just trying to get
off
to
the
it.
red area,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah.
Trying to
up
move
here.
it. I don't know
Yeah.
if I can move this screen. Let me see if I can make the screen correctly.
Yeah, so they're doing some work right now. They're doing some evaluation of our current grading plan, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to do some finished work now and then in 6 months have to change something. So we're really trying to align our end of project site work with what's going to align with them.
So you can sort of see, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I see
Yeah.
that they're almost even Steven, but we don't want to do something premature. And I think we put a lot of thought into what we're doing. I think the public appreciates that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we just wanted to make sure you guys were on board with that before we went too much farther.
Where's the parking across the street? I'm looking at it on Google Maps on my phone. And on my
It's,
computer.
Look, Molly and I are making the universal hand symbol for where it is. It's like if you are standing and looking at Walnut Hills front entrance, and then you
on
turn.
on Kemper Lane.
Yeah,
Right,
and it's
yeah.
to your left. If you look to your right, and then what direction is that? Back.
That would be
It's
north.
back towards down.
It's
back towards downtown. It's right, there's a big apartment building and it's right next to that apartment building.
It's kind of off the beat. It's off the street. There's
It
a little
doesn't-
driveway,
yeah.
and you have to kind of go back. And we've redeveloped and improved it, but it's not like right on the street.
No, it's not.
That
I don't
would be the-
even see it at from the intersection. So
No, and it doesn't, so the drive almost aligns with the Kroger drive.
okay.
It's kind of down that far. But so we're adding like a crosswalk closer to like a little bit past the edge of the parking lot, closer to like the central part of the library. But because of where the entry is for the library and where that parking is, and then that ramp, we've been really trying to figure out a way to give true accessible parking. And this is a really good opportunity.
I got you.
Yeah. That's why we wanted to make sure you kind of understood, because there's a lot going on in the neighborhood, which is great, but we are doing our best to kind of provide the best option.
I like the idea a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I ask what you mean by a crosswalk? Do you mean something painted on the roadway, or do you mean something physical?
There won't be a light. No, it'll just be a marked crosswalk.
It'll be a marked crosswalk, Nadine, so painted on the roadway, exactly.
Is that going to be on Park or William Howard Taft? I mean, on
On
Kemper?
Kemper.
Yeah, Kemper. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And this does, I think, provide us some benefit because we'd have that big side yard and it's going to be a little more purposeful now. So I think that we look at this kind of as a win all the way around. We just have to make it all work out.
all that land to the south of the branch is ours too? Is that where we're building?
What we're building right next to it, adjacent.
Oh, you can't see. Are you looking at the picture that
Nope.
Paula had pulled up?
Nope, I'm
Yeah.
looking at it on Google Maps on my computer. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from a bird's eye view. So our branch sits on the southwest corner of William Howard Taft and Kemper. So
Right.
are we
Yep.
saying that we're building? I haven't seen the construction,
Right.
so it's
Yeah,
south
right
of that.
next to that.
Got it.
Yeah, I would say south. Yes.
Yeah. So between the Kroger building,
Yes.
which used to
We
be,
bought
I got
that
it.
lot.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So we're gonna have
Right
some
there.
parking right behind our building
Yeah.
Yes.
by doing a
Right.
swap. I think that's
Yeah.
a great. I think that's a great idea. The
Yeah,
model-
that's-
Okay, yeah. We
That
we
works
want to
out great.
encourage model, I hope we can encourage model management to swiftly
Model
agree with
group, they're
what's
model group.
best.
They're not
Yes.
model management. They're model group.
Model group,
They're very
Say-
clear
I
about
got to
that.
say, I've known them a long time, model group.
Yeah, keep doing it.
Thank you for
Judge,
that.
judge.
They have been quite, as I said, interested in continuing the dialogue, and I appreciate that. We'll make sure they know, and honestly, credit to them, because they are being, at this point, they've been flexible in discussing what works for us. We just want to get that grading issue resolved around the
Before
back
we get too
before
far.
we get too far, because all the grading on all of these things is kind of screwy.
And if you've been up there lately, it is crazy with the construction, with tearing down the
Yeah.
Kroger and everything else. And they have really been good neighbor partners as we've been doing the project. So
Yeah, I'm not
they've been
surprised. I'm
great
not
support.
surprised. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good people.
Good
All right.
questions. All right, Mr. Hendon, I think we're back to you.
All right, good. We'll move on to the Madisonville branch accessibility.
Well, there's more.
Construction has begun on the build out of the leased space. We have faced several coordination challenges with the landlord's contractor. The library and Megan Construction are working with Ackerman landlord to resolve the issues in a timely manner in effort to stay on schedule. Now, the Forest Park Branch Property Exchange. Upon final approval from the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office, the property exchange agreement based on the letter of intent that was approved at the December 14th, 2021 board meeting has been executed. Requesting confirmation of the attached agreement and authorization with Eva Jane Remain Coombe Director to execute any necessary agreements or documents as part of the closing after completion of the due diligence on both properties by all parties.
Shout out to Judge Allen, because she did kind of do a last minute signing of some property exchange elements that we needed in place. So that's all done, and I appreciate that on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Sent someone to Judge Allen's house, and she was, thank you very much.
Good. Forest Park branch replacement. Design processes started in mid-March. The library has engaged with Group 4 to provide consultation with design decisions on the first standalone next generation library. Design is expected to continue until late fall 2022 with plans for the GMP and construction commencement of the early of 2023. Now, the Hyde Park branch easement. The progress on the redevelopment plans of the property to the west of the branch continues. The demolition of the buildings is expected later this spring. As previously noted, the new owner, Falling Leaves LLC, has requested 2 easements to access the sewer line in the library's rear parking lot. requesting approval of the attached easements on approval from the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office. Now, is that our sewer? Is that county sewer? Is city? Who owns the sewer?
It'll be the MSD. It'll belong to we'll eventually have a permanent easement with them, once all is said and done. But in order for them to get the work started, these are the two easements that we need now.
All right, but maintenance of sewer falls to MSD, not us.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, good.
Right.
All right, Hyde Park Branch elevator replacement and renovation. With the redevelopment of the property next to the library, we have a unique opportunity to raise the elevation of the rear lot to a point where the accessibility ramp would no longer be necessary. In addition, there's an opportunity to expand the parking service and increase the number of parking spots by 12. New layout will also improve traffic flow. Overall, the updating of the sewer connection and lot improvements will alleviate long-standing drainage problems of the lot. In order to implement these improvements, the library requested a setback variance on the rear lot. In addition, the library will be seeking grading easements from adjacent neighbors. Upon board approval of this direction, the library will begin the process.
Do you have any questions about that one? Because the Hyde Park has kind of been an evolving opportunity that has had a lot of, it's come very quickly. So we wanted to make sure you were comfortable with that one. We had been out there for a meeting not too long ago, so I think everyone has seen it, but it's just wanted to check in on that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of this grading issue.
Yeah, so.
To adjacent property owners. Can you talk more about that, Molly?
Yeah, so they believe right now, and they're still working on all the final design of all of this, but they believe that there is enough fill to raise our rear lot up about 4 or 5 feet so that we would not need the ramp anymore. And when they do that, it's going to put some pressure on a couple of the neighbors. And if you'll recall, we're a little bit in a bowl back there anyway. So there are 3 neighbors that we would need grading easements from to, accept that we're going to be putting a little more pressure toward, and we have retaining walls and all of that would be up. It's a requirement in order to make any kind of grading changes. So we're still waiting on all the civil engineer reports. And once we get that all done, we would then begin the process of seeking those easements from those neighbors.
What street are we on?
So this is on Erie, near the corner of Erie and Michigan. And if you can see the back parking lot.
I'm just trying to find it on my Google Maps, that's all.
It's right by the corner there. The church is still up, I think, and there's a doctor's office not far.
I should know this.
I found it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're on the southeast corner, Hyde Park, well, almost on the corner.
Yeah, we're not on the corner. Yeah, this new property is on the
Yeah.
corner.
All right, I see it.
Yeah. So.
So are we gonna lose any parking at all from this?
No, we'll
arrangement?
actually gain 12 spots.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many spaces will we have then? I'm counting one.
I think 36.
36, I believe. That's the plan. It will be above 30, and right now we're certainly below.
Yeah, we're at about 24 now, and it will
Yeah.
also be, right now, it's the way you pull in, like we park along the outsides, but
Yeah.
this will actually kind of park in the middle, so it'll be almost a little safer.
Great.
Because you pull in and park, and then you won't have to worry about like hitting somebody when you're backing out. It's kind of a tricky lot. And I think that the neighbors are gonna actually really appreciate this because this lot is a drainage issue. It is full of, like, if there's a heavy rain or anything, it holds water for a bit of time. It's been that way for years. So I think that, I think the work that's happening by our neighbor, and in exchange for us doing this, the neighbor's doing all of this work. They're doing the grading, the replacement of all the sewage line, the paving. They're doing all of that.
Okay.
I'm just waiting on right now the final kind of MOU stating what they're doing. But all of this is going to kind of domino pretty quickly. So we're going to need to get some help in the area of these easements and variances, which we're on. We know what we need to do, but we just wanted to make sure that you guys were all aware and didn't have any concerns.
Yeah,
My only concern was
if we're applying drainage issues to adjacent property owners, is that going to cost us more money?
I believe that all the work we're doing is going to actually alleviate a lot of issues everywhere.
And then to the same credit to this person who's working there, they've been very proactive in reaching out and working with us and doing their best to make it a good opportunity for the whole neighborhood, including the library. Finally, some of the members of this committee may be a little newer, so you may not have attended some of the FMP sessions we had in the summer of 2019, but we were at one out in Anderson where we had a gentleman who was in a wheelchair, and he mentioned that he sometimes would like to try and visit the Hyde Park branch. He drives, but the last time he had been there, he had gotten his wheelchair out of his car, and before he could kind of situate himself, it had rolled down the slope here in Hyde Park. I mean, it is a substantial parking. So having the opportunity to alleviate that, and then also get rid of that ramp if we could in the back, which is a long and pretty intense ramp, it would just really enhance the accessibility. So, but it is a complicated project, so you're going to keep hearing from us on this one on a variety of things, and it's happening quickly. The developer wants to move quickly.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Good. All right, new project opportunities. As work continues on the facility master plan, several community partners have inquired about opportunities near them. We've had a recent meeting regarding long-term project plans in the West End and plan to meet with representatives from Norwood later this spring.
Mr. Hendon, I just want to give a little bit of information from the West End folks who contacted me maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago and then sent a follow-up email. And they provided a very brief narrative that details this collaboration that may be possible between the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority, us, the library, and the Cincinnati Recreation Commission. It's this opportunity to partner all those organizations together and provide a resource that is really what they're calling sort of the heart of the West End for their project development. And they are really looking to redevelop possibly those Liberty Street developments that the CMHA has, with the idea that that new development might include a Cincinnati Recreation Commission site and a library, perhaps on the first floor, that would then have housing above it. So they're looking at a site that yields just under 250 units, and it's near the Laurel Playground and the Liberty Street apartments. So this is the area they're looking to get. I think they're hoping to get a $50 million grant, but it's a multi-year process for just applying for the grant, much less getting the grant. So this isn't going to happen next year, but I asked them to send the information to me, and I wanted to confirm that we would be interested in exploring this. Now, they do note that the current branch that we have there on Liberty, if this were to move forward, their intention would somehow to be able to have that area, that building, even serve the community in some way. So I don't have details because they don't have details, but I did meet with the CRC director and with folks from the CMHA, and they're very serious about applying for this. So I told them I would bring it to the committee and make sure there weren't concerns with exploring it further. Again, I think they're going to need to put their application in by the end of this year. So as more details come forward, they may need us to determine if we want to be part of this, and I can look at it and I can send you information that gives their general outline, but they don't have the money yet. It's simply something they may want to move forward with.
Okay, good.
I think
All right.
that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
Having those
I believe,
the kids closer to where they live and to where they're going to be in the library.
it just all sounds so wonderful. And there's already a smaller library, and this would actually be an enhancement for that community.
And I have, yes, I agree with that. Let me show you, I have maybe, just so you all can, I'll try and share this here. See if I can share this little map that gives a little bit. You may be familiar with this, and I agree with everything you were saying and what they're talking about. If I can show this. Show. Oh, that's not the map. I did all that, and that's not even the right map. Hold on a minute, that's their other thing. Molly, did you have a question?
No, I just
Yeah.
Okay, I want to, real quick, while she's looking for this, I'm going to go back to the Hyde Park. The developer, Terex is the developer over there, and they have just asked if the library would be willing to just write a letter saying that we support the project, and we've been working with them. We just want to make sure that the committee and the board doesn't have any objection to that.
Doesn't sound like it.
That's a great site. So
Right there, yeah.
are they tearing down the Liberty Street apartments? Are they gonna, what's going on?
Well, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, so that is, you know, again, I think this is all in the works. So that is, they are redoing those apartments if they get the money. These are all examples. You know, Chicago has been doing this like crazy. So in the little packet they sent along are several case studies from Chicago where they have done some of this work with federal dollars and their housing authority. So these are not necessarily exactly what we've been doing, but they did send them to say, hey, this is happening in other cities. And then here is what, again, they're talking about, to your question, Greg, they're talking about possibly trying to do in the units and where they would be repositioning and redoing things. And we would, you know, be talking to them about exactly where we might go. And I can't, they may, yeah. So this kind of idea.
Where did the playground go?
I'm not sure. I can ask them for clarification on exactly what they're doing. They may be trying to incorporate it in differently, but this is what they sort of, in the center area here, could be some of this. I think they're trying to incorporate their outdoor space with a rec center space. So again, it's kind of in the early developments, but this is the area that they may be talking about. Yeah, green open space. Yeah.
What's the yellow?
The yellow
The
is
gold color.
like, that must be,
This is like a new building.
yeah, multifamily apartments perhaps.
Yep, that's what that looks like.
So it sounds like there is interest in continuing this discussion, and I can continue to bring that information forward, but I think we just wanted to make sure, and if we do that, we may receive questions from the community about the current building, which we know we have other buildings where sometimes we just don't have a lot of opportunities on the existing lot. But I think what I heard from, yeah, and we're still doing our project because this is all a little bit in the future and it's not guaranteed, but I did hear, I think from Judge Allen, and I think from that, you know, looking at another site that has more potential is not a bad idea at all. Okay, I think Molly has one more section of report. So Mr. Hendon, I think we are on main library project update.
All right, the skylight installation is complete and Turner will begin dismantling the skyfolding soon. The elevator replacement work is ongoing and the completion date is modified to July 15th, 2022 to complete additional detail items. North Plaza work is almost complete with the exception of the wall along Prior Alley, which is expected in June 2022. Library is evaluating modification of one of the bump outs to install new entry doors with a proper vestibule off the North Plaza. We're planning to use the current available budget to complete the doors. Now, there's some following change orders that's modified the skylight for Turner Construction have been approved, submitted for confirmation. Turner Construction credit in the amount of $6,476,000. Turner Construction cost addition of $6,307. Turner Construction addition of $7,866. Fine change order modified the elevator GMP for Turner Construction approved and submitted for confirmation. The deduct for wall graphics is $17,928. The additional elevator cooling room was addition $39,455. The fine change order modified the North Plaza GMP for Turner Construction has been approved, submitted for confirmation. Additional architectural detail added after the bidding, $40,053. Drawing clarification, $3,197. We expect the GMP for the social stair, guardrails, and interior renovation presented to the board on June 22 board meeting. And that concludes the report. Any questions?
And you guys are good. We did that in 35 minutes. So thank you all. Diane, if you want to go ahead and read the report, we'll begin.
Okay, thank you very much, Monica. I'm sorry, Monica. Thank you very much, Paula. So this is the Operations Committee. This is a report from Brett Bonfield, COO. Book purchases, customer questions, and card types. As noted in a March 14, 2022 Library Journal article, public libraries face escalating book challenges. Book challenges are not new. There have always been library customers who disagree with ideas that are communicated in books and library resources. Some customers seek to have books they dislike removed from public library collections. What has been on the rise recently, according to the Library Journal article, as well as several articles in major media outlets, are these, quote, scope and tactics, end quote, of these challenges. Our library has long had a collection development policy in place which guides our purchasing decisions. We also offer users the opportunity via an established procedure to ask for us to review particular items if they have concerns. And we offer customers several choices of library cards to fit the needs of individuals and families. Brett Bonfield, Chief Operating Officer, and Patricia Spate, Materials Selection and Acquisition Manager, will provide an overview of this information.
Okay, I'm going to switch on over to the PowerPoint here and then turn things over to Tricia. Let me make sure I can share this and then everyone can see what Tricia's talking from. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Tricia, all right. Go ahead, Tricia.
All right. Hi, everyone. As Diane mentioned, I'm the Materials Selection and Acquisitions Department Manager, and I'm going to start by talking briefly about the variety of ways that books and other media are added to our collection. And then I'll talk about the role that our collection development policy plays in building the collection and communicating with our customers. So starting with how we acquire materials, anything you find on our library shelves or on one of our digital platforms has been added to the collection in one of four ways. It's been selected by the team in my department. It's been purchased to fill a customer request. It's been added as part of a donation, or it's been purchased as part of a packaged product. And I'll just very briefly touch on each one of those. The vast majority of the books, movies, and music in our collection are chosen by a team of 5 specialists in my department with a combined 74 years of experience. And most of that material is purchased from 3 major vendors that cater mostly or exclusively to public libraries. And you see their names right there. Baker & Taylor is one of the biggest and oldest, Ingram, and Midwest Tape is where most of our DVDs and music come from. By purchasing through them, we have access to bulk discounts, lease programs, processing services, and purchase sites that include all the value-added features a librarian might need to make purchase decisions. Next, we have requests from customers. That's another way that materials get added. Most of those come through a dedicated web tool that we call Suggest a Purchase, found on our books and media page. In 2021, we had about 7,000 of those, and we filled a little more than half of those. And we have a 30-month limit for our customers, which is very generous compared to some of our peers.
Can you talk about what that means, sort of in like a 30-month limit, just a little bit of like to the lay person, explain what that is.
Sure, like a single customer is entitled to request as many as 30, to ask us to request, or to ask us to purchase as many as 30 items in a month, which is an awful lot.
Yeah, some other libraries, I think, have limits of like 10 a month per person, and 30, we've been pretty generous on making sure that we're listening to what people want as much as we possibly can.
Right, right. Next, we have donations. Those come from the general public, from authors publicists, or as a result of gifts of money that are earmarked for materials on a particular topic. An example is our longstanding Feld Fund, which pays for travel books. And next, we have what I'm calling package products. We have databases, which we have subscribed to for decades. Those are used for online research and homework and contain content from thousands of magazines, newspapers, and academic journals. And then a couple of our e-resource platforms are package products. Hoopla and Canopy, for example. Hoopla provides access to ebooks, e-audiobooks, music, TV shows, and Canopy provides access to streaming movies. By contrast, the material that you find in Libby, which is the Overdrive app, that is selected by our e-resource specialist. So that's more like regular selection, like you would do for print materials.
So on Hoopla, and some of you, I know many of you use the library's online resources. So on Hoopla, which you may be familiar with, Trish and her team don't pick each individual item. That comes as like a packaged item, whereas in the Overdrive app, Libby, it is much more individually selected. So at times, some of the stuff that we buy as a package is kind of a set of items. Some of it comes and goes. It's not always the same content. But the vendor has a lot of, they provide the package, but we don't pick each individual. And that's just how those resources work.
All right, so next I'm going to talk a little bit about answering customers' questions. Every once in a while, a customer will ask why we have a particular item on our shelves or why we don't. And that's why we have a very, very nice collection development policy. We rely on it. It's very detailed and comprehensive. It's located on our homepage under policies and guidelines. It has 9 sections, but I'm going to highlight only the parts that are most important for our discussion today. And if you'd like to follow along, I think we were going to provide a link in the, I'm not sure if we did.
I think it's not live here. We can do this.
Okay.
You know, I can certainly send that out. It is available on our webpage.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that's fine.
Great. So it starts with a purpose statement that describes how we use the policy, and that is that it guides staff in decision-making, establishes parameters and priorities, informs the public of principles that guide our collection development, and most important for today's discussion, states the library's commitment to intellectual freedom and to providing information expressing a variety of viewpoints. Next is the collection development responsibility statement, which names that Eva Jane Remain Coombe Director as ultimately responsible for collection development decisions under the authority of the board, and then describes a chain of delegation that leads to the professional staff in my department. The community profile describes our very large and diverse service populations. The selection, evaluation, and criteria section includes anticipated demand, and that would be something like a bestseller list or an awards list, community interests, strengths and weaknesses of the existing collections, system-wide availability, physical space limitations, acquisitions procedures, and available budgets. And the sources that we utilize in making those decisions are published reviews from standard review sources, publisher vendor catalogs and advertisements, professional and trade bibliographies, and customer requests and recommendations. The next section talks about gifts and just addresses the most common questions we get associated with gifts. Collection evaluation and maintenance details the processes we use to keep our collection balanced, attractive, and up to date. Preservation section describes how we decide whether to preserve an item or to replace it or remove it instead. And then that's followed by the 2 sections that are most important to us today, intellectual freedom and request for reconsideration. So the section on intellectual freedom, it's about 5 or 6 paragraphs, and it starts with a sentence that summarizes what we're working to achieve. And that is that the library is committed to the principle that the constitutionally protected freedoms of speech and press are enjoyed by all. And then each paragraph that follows describes how that commitment plays out in a public library environment. And then it's wrapped up again with kind of a restatement of that commitment. We're committed to free and open access to our collections and to connecting people with the world of ideas, information, and materials they wish to explore in a friendly, non-judgmental manner. So on those occasions, when a customer comes to us with an item from our collection that they find objectionable, the first thing we do is discuss with them these principles that are spelled out in our policy. And we also offer to assist them in finding material that is more in tune with their needs. If they still wish to express their objection to the material, we offer them what's called a request for reconsideration form. I have them here. I don't really think you'll be able to see them, but just it asks for name, address, email, and asks them to identify the item that they find objectionable, and asks whether how it came to their attention. Did you read or listen to the entire work? And what is it that you find objectionable? And then that form is submitted for review by an ad hoc committee of professionals assembled by the director. A recommendation is made and the director delivers a written response to the customer. So that is it for my section. And I will now turn it over to Brett so he can talk about the different types of cards we offer and how they complement our policy.
Before we go on to Brett, does anybody have any questions for Tricia or anything related to that? We just wanted to give you a quick overview to feel confident that you know kind of how we handle things, and that we do have processes in place should we receive any questions or have the opportunity to talk with folks about various items in our collection. Are there any questions or any follow-up questions for Tricia?
None from
it's
me.
Monica. Oh,
No,
I have one.
Go ahead, Monica. I hear you.
Okay, great. So how many objection notices does the library get a year? Just to put it in context.
Not a lot. I have, since I've been in this position, for just a year and I have not had any. Last year I have, I'm aware of one from the year prior, when my predecessor was the manager. But from what I have heard, we don't get very many. I don't even know if we get one a year. I think we may get one every few years. I think that's been the history.
Monica, and it can kind of come up and down with, you know, if people are attuned or wondering about it. Over the course of my experience here, we've had times when there have been more. We've had times when there have been virtually none. We're not deluged with them generally, but on occasion, if there is some particular information that people are wanting to express their thoughts about, we may get several at once, but that has not necessarily been the typical experience here. Does that help?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was my question. This is Karen. That was my question as well. But thank you.
Hi, Karen. Sure.
Hi.
Good to hear from you. No worries.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have Brett for our library card types.
Yeah, so in terms of partnering with individual customers or communities, we kind of have two levers, right? We can, have the specific collection where they can express their concerns, and then they also can have a certain amount of control over access. Specifically, parents and guardians, have the ability to put some guardrails if they want to in place. So that's why we're talking about cards in this context. And again, the card types and the way that we use cards tie into two of our key brand beliefs. It's always useful to tie anything important back to the brand beliefs, connecting community members to materials and resources, as well as providing tech access and support to the community. The second one isn't as germane to this specific conversation, but it is the reason for some of the card types that you'll see. And kind of leads to the idea that we do have 19 card types. They are listed on our homepage, so all of our customers can see what kind of card types we have. By more than any card type, it's unlimited, which is exactly what we would think it would be. Anybody can get one. They have access to all the circulating materials. That's 74%. Then we do have child-only cards, teen-only cards, and download-only that comprise almost all of the rest of the cards. The other 15 card types that aren't mentioned there are, I think, less than 5%. So they're less than 1% each, and in total, about 5%. So again, we're mostly talking about, in this case, specifically the child-only and teen-only cards, but there's some other card types we'll touch on. So again, as you see on screen, we can provide age-restricted access. And again, we can also adjust the card type based on specific needs or status, which we'll talk about. And we have card types for customers who don't live in Hamilton County.
And that one is one that if we talk about the card types that we get questions about, that last one about not living in Hamilton County, certainly the state of Ohio is one thing, but when we built the Harrison branch, some time ago, we had lots of folks from Indiana who wanted to use our library, and we don't have a reciprocal borrowing with those folks. So that is the other, when there was a question about what kind of questions you receive, sometimes the people from Indiana who have to pay for their access, we get some questions, and sometimes just some like, that's a bummer feeling from them because they're so close to Harrison. So just to upnote, and some of you may on occasion hear from your friends who live right over the border in Indiana. We have reciprocity with Kentucky, but not as much with Indiana.
The page, oh, sorry, somebody have a question?
Brett, it's Monica. So one question on the age-restricted card. So, and I should probably know the answer to this, but if a teenager comes in and they're applying for a card, are those restricted that they have to have parental sign-off on that if they're under a certain age?
Yeah, that's typically how we would default to it. And so that can affect things like using a laptop. So there are some elements there. So if they want to use a laptop, they would need to have a parent sign off.
Because the unlimited card, Monica, is the card that, requires that interaction with the parents. Some of these other card types do not, but to Brett's point, they have different limitations, both from the technology you might use and also from the perspective of what kinds of items can be checked out there. So if somebody comes in without a parent, there are options, but it's not the unlimited version of things. Does that seem right? I mean, does that answer your question?
So, and maybe maybe I have another question then. So if I'm a teenager, long time ago, and I come in and I'm not using a laptop or anything like that, I just want to have access to books or whatever, do I have to have parental consent to look at a book?
Not to look at, no, only this only is for checking out specific items. So yeah, I mean, anybody who's in the branch can look at any material that they want. We don't have the staff to police them, nor is that within our mandate. But in terms of checking things out, and so some of this is around actual access, to certain material types, and that's part of what we're bringing up. But part of it also goes back to when there were more onerous fees, and so we didn't want to limit customers' ability to check items out, which is why you see that we limit it to 7 items, and that was really more worried about either accruing fees or losing materials and then not having access to materials.
Brett, is it, oh, sorry, it was kind of hard to, was there a?
Yeah, I know, I forgot to turn down the volume on the closing announcement, so you heard that.
Sorry. Yeah, what I'm saying is it goes back to either accruing overdue fees that might have limited access for customers or losing items, which would also, of course, limit access. So that's why you see not just the age restrictions, but also the number of items that customers can check out. Because again, the goal there was to actually keep them able to check out items. So it wasn't meant to be, a limitation that would punish them. It was meant to help them not run afoul of overdue fees.
So like a teen-only card, someone who is in the building can do that, but they only can check out 7 items, and they are limited to the kinds of items they can check out. It does not include media, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that answer your question, Monica?
I think what I'm really asking is if a parent is objecting to what materials are available to a child or a teenager, when we say we have restricted cards, in order to give them comfort about what that child or teenager might be seeing. I think I'm hearing you say we don't, because of staffing, we can't watch what everybody's doing. We don't monitor that while they're in the branch.
Right.
So
Correct.
would that teenager be able to check out a book as opposed to signing up for a laptop for a while or anything like that a parent might object to? I'm trying to figure out what is the position that is available to take with a parent who has concerns. How far does that limitation go?
So a teenager who wanted to check something out and had a teen-only card would be able to check out items not from the collections that are curated for adults. They would be able to check out the material that is curated for teens and kids, but they couldn't check out a book that was a fiction book that was curated in the adult collection. Likewise, if a child was in and wanted to check out an item, they could check out 7 juvenile items. So those are the items that are curated for kids, but they wouldn't be, that card does not allow them to check out items curated for teens or adults. So there is some, what you take home is with these card types is somewhat limited to juvenile item types, which is kind of like an inside baseball term, but it's like the items that are specifically curated for younger people, teens, things curated for teens and younger people, but not the items that are curated for the adults.
Okay, I got it.
Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense? Yeah, yeah. So it isn't like it's intended to guide towards some of those things that a parent would likely feel like, well, those are intended for kids. Now the content is always wide open on something that somebody might feel like, well, I don't love that, but it is an item that is generated and curated with an intention of for a younger audience.
Okay.
And so again, the child only and teen only are the limitations we would place, and then a parent or guardian can request the other two. So again, we do try to partner with and respect, parents' ability to, to have some say over what their and guardians' ability to say what their children are checking out from the library and how many items even they're checking out from the library. So nothing's gonna be perfect. Like Paula was saying, some people will object to other items that are classified as, juvenile or teen, but in general, this is a pretty solid way to partner. And I do suspect that's one of the reasons that we don't tend to get quite as many challenges maybe as some of our peer libraries.
And just to the point too that Brett made a little bit earlier about cost. So those child and teen only cards also come with a little bit of a stopgap on if you don't bring those items back, we continue to ask that you bring them back, but the card is stopped. We don't really pursue that person for the purposes of, credit rating issue or some of the other things that we do with the adult cards. So that's why there are limited numbers. And again, you can't use the card if the items don't come back, but we also are trying to sort of split that difference with some kids who we know may have some issues with getting back to the library, or if they move their, where they're living quite a bit, those items can get misplaced. And so we want to have the opportunity to give them this chance and not, as Brett noted, have some more severe punishment should they have difficulty returning one of those items.
Okay, thank you.
The other 2 card types are I have there just for completeness, but I'll run them very, very quickly. Again, the card types for needs and status, which is I think the next one. I mean, it is really just the gold card, which y'all have, and retirees get, and book club, educator cards, things like that. Which again, we do want to highlight certain material types. The one that's just germane here, of course, is adult only, which again is exists because we have the juvenile only and teen only. It's not that they can't check out other items.
Right, and it's just a material curated for adults. It has no greater meaning. It's again sort of a library term. Adult collection means, the fiction books are the adult collection. So that is what the intention there is. Like Brett said, it just matches up child only and teen only. And it is, again, for some folks who, you know, may want to try and use the library, but their life circumstances are such that there may be concern about whether or not they could bring the items back. We always ask them to bring them back, but we do limit that. So in the event something happens, they're not unwilling to use the library due to a concern about some kind of punitive issue, but we also limit our exposure by there's only 7 items that they could ever lose.
And then the next step, again, just for completeness sake, because if I mentioned 19, I should at least tell you about 19, is again the non-resident, and Paul already talked about that. And I think these I think are actually pretty self-explanatory. Some of the others are not quite so clear, but once you understand how the other ones work, I think it's clear how these work. So that's it for our card types. And again, again, going back to the idea of, you know, partnering with our community, partnering with individual customers. Again, this gives them, you know, a fair amount of say in, you know, how they and their family members access library materials. And, you know, when you have many millions of items, you know, you want to partner as well as you can with, you know, our 800,000 plus customers.
So that was a whirlwind tour. We know you're all busy folks, but we did want to make sure that you had the information. And Monica, thank you for your questions, and Karen as well. I don't know if anyone has any other questions. We're happy to answer them here as well too. Okay, I think that is all we had for the committee today. I appreciate your time. And Tony, Waycross folks, that's it. Again, I don't have a gavel, but thus ends the meeting.